Hey YouTube, Lorenzo here, and I want to thank you for joining me. Today I have a great recipe that I just must share with you guys. I mentioned it before in my previous video, and if you haven't seen that, the link will be down below. And now, okay, so today we're making Lorenzo's Enchilada Sauce. Don't have a better name for it, so that's what we're going to use. So I hope it's okay. So let me ask you, what is enchilada sauce? Well, I did some research for you guys because we don't want this just to be just a plain cooking, follow a recipe show, you know, follow the bouncing ball. Yeah, we don't like to do that, right? Let's give you some information. That's why I enjoy cooking, so learning a little bit about the history about the food, where it comes from and such. So I'll try to do some research and maybe you can learn something along the way as well. So in my research I found that the enchilada was introduced or is defined as a dish rolled in a corn tortilla with topped with tomato and chili sauce. See, you learned something today. So I'm not just a pretty face. It's about giving you information, my infotainment for my 7 viewers, if you would. Well, for all of you that are following along at home, here's the ingredients that you'll need for Lorenzo's enchilada sauce. Now what I have done is pre-cut all my onions and garlic so it's ready to go, pre-measured out my ingredients. So when we get to the cooking process, we can just get right to it. It is usually a pain in the butt, I'll be honest with you, when you try to measure everything out when you're cooking a sauce because it can go too quick. Do yourself a favor, have everything pre-ready to go. It'll make your life a lot easier and you'll thank me for it later. Okay, we are starting our enchilada sauce right now. Start melting some butter and we're going to saute our onions and get those cooking going. So we got about 1 cup of diced onions. Once that's cooked through a bit and those onions get cooked, we will add some garlic to this, and then I'll give you some pro tips. Now that these are cooking up, and right now I'm cooking on about medium-high heat. And get those onions cooked. I see they're starting to soften up and go a little more translucent. It's perfect. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add about 4 cloves of garlic. I personally like a lot of garlic, and I think it adds. But if you don't like as much, then, you know, obviously use less. Now, the thing with, because we're cooking in our garlic, pro tip, and it's on high heat, you don't want to cook them very long. If they go brown and they cook too long, they will go bitter, and then they will ruin, I don't know, maybe ruin, but they will definitely make your dish taste a little bitter. Now that that's going, I'm going to add our flour. I'm using about 1/4 cup of flour, and this is to just thicken it. Now, I've done this a few times, and the standard for your roux is 1:1, basically fat to flour ratio for your roux, and I found that made it a little too thick, so I thinned it down, and I think this works just right for me. I get a good sauce out of that, and it tastes really well and gives me good consistency. It gives me just enough thickness and thin enough so I can really pour it on and make a little bit thinner of a sauce. When you're cooking through this, make sure you cook it, let it cook for a little while. Let the flour cook out of your dish. Otherwise, you'll still have that flour taste in your food. Let us cook. Let that get through. Now, what I like to do is add my chili at this stage as well. Help that incorporate into it, and then we'll add the liquid. So what I've got here is a 4 tablespoons of chili powder. Now what I like to do essentially is brown this as well. Maybe toasting it if you would, but it absorbs all that fat and those onions. And just, I've noticed when I've done this so far in the past that it's really just kind of help richen the flavor. Do you have to do it this way? No. You can add it all together at once after you poured in the liquid and everything else. But like I said, this is the way I've done it so far, and I've turned out really, really well. Alright, I'm going to add my sauce, or my beef stock now. About 4 cups, or 1 big box, or 1 quart box. Give this a good stir. Get all that to break up a little bit. I don't have really any clumps. Now, I've noticed a couple of times when I've been cooking this recipe that if you don't watch it, this will thicken up on the bottom probably a little bit too quickly, and basically starts to cook on the bottom and almost burn a little bit. I've ruined a batch early on trying this out, and so watch it carefully. Wait for it to start coming up to a boil for us after just a little bit. Make sure you're stirring it. Make sure that that bottom doesn't get all stuck to the pan from that thickness of the roux that we created from the flour and the butter. Now at this stage you can add your other ingredients or wait for it to come up to boil. It's up to you. I'm going to go ahead and add everything in now. So next I got about 2 tablespoons of cumin. Here is my 2 tablespoons of paprika and about 1 tablespoon of oregano. I'll just start stirring that in as well. You can see that already starting to thicken up a little bit. This lighter orange that's coming up is the fat from the butter rising up. Now, depending on your personal preferences, you could skim that off, or just leave it like I do. Now you can see that this is already thickening up quite a bit from just a liquid broth. And that's kind of what we're looking for. We just want to let this cook out. And what I do at this stage, now that it's come to a boil, is I'll turn it down to low or just above low. Let all those flavors cook through and marry together. We'll test the seasoning, adjust as necessary, and we can go from there. With this recipe, you should be able to make roughly about a dozen or so enchiladas with the flour tortillas, with the standard 8-inch size tortillas, or probably about 20-ish or so of the small corn tortillas as well, depending on how you use the sauce. Again, you can make the sauce thicker by adding a little more flour to the recipe, or you can make it a little thinner by adding a little less. Just depending on your particular tastes and your particular styles. Again, if you wanted to make this a little more spicy, a good way to increase that would be to add the peppers into your meat mixture. So adding some chili peppers, some different jalapenos, adding chili powder to your filling would be a good way of doing that to bring the heat level up if you wanted it hotter as well. Again, I want to thank you for joining me today on my YouTube channel. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. I hope you enjoyed your time here with me today, and see you next time.